All right, friends, so I've been watching this Steelers roster all camp long, tracking every single practice, trying to get a real feel for who's building momentum and who's not. But Saturday Night Lights was the one I was waiting on, because that's usually where camp legs and hype start separating from what's real. And now that it's done, I sat through the whole thing, went over every rep I could, and I've got some thoughts on it. So I put together my full list of winners and losers coming out of that practice, and I think once you hear it, you're going to have some opinions of your own. Hello Steelers fans, if you're new to the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Alright, so let me start with the guy who honestly stole the show more than anybody else out there, and that's Brandon Smith. Look, I'll be straight with you. I did not expect to be talking about this guy 2 weeks into camp. He's 27 years old, he's bounced around practice squads for years, and yet right now, out of every single receiver trying to make a case for a roster spot, nobody is making a louder statement than him. He's diving for balls, he's building a real connection with Aaron Rodgers, and every single time the ball comes his way, he's coming down with it. I'm not saying he's a lock to make this 53-man roster. I mean, the numbers game at receiver is brutal, but if you told me before camp that this guy would be the most impressive name through 2 weeks, I would have laughed at you. And speaking of guys separating themselves when it matters, I gotta bring up Mason Rudolph, because this one honestly surprised me too. Early in the week, I was pretty convinced Will Howard looked like the sharper quarterback of the group behind Aaron Rodgers. But then you start hearing how the coaching staff is talking about Mason Rudolph, and you start watching the reps, and it's just clear as day now. He's not doing anything flashy, he's not throwing highlight reel passes every single snap, but he's steady, he's smart with the football, and right now he's running away with that backup job. Sometimes that's all it takes, just being consistent while everybody else around you is dealing with ups and downs. Now, shifting over to the defensive side, because this rookie corner earned every bit of attention he's getting, and that's Dalen Everett. This kid got thrown right into the fire early on, going up against the top receivers on this roster, and he took his lumps. Honestly, he lost more than he won in those early matchups. But once he started facing the second and third string guys, something clicked. He's winning those battles now. He's making plays on the ball, and you can just tell the coaching staff believes in what they've got here. He's long, he's physical in press coverage, and he's further along than anybody probably expected at this point in camp. And staying in that secondary, I gotta bring up Robert Spears-Jennings, because this guy has quietly worked his way into a role that nobody handed him. He's out there taking first-team reps at safety, and that's not something that just happens by accident. He's flashed a little bit of speed and range that you just don't see from some of the bigger, more box-heavy safeties on this roster. He's had a rep or two where you'd wince a little, sure, but for the most part, he's been making plays. He came away with a pick recently against the starters, and that's exactly the kind of thing that gets a coaching staff's attention. I think he's carved out a real path toward that third safety job, and that's a huge deal for a guy who came in with way less hype than some others in that draft class. Now, let me pivot to the defensive line for a second, because there's a name here that honestly nobody was talking about heading into camp, and that's Kevin Jabody Jr. This guy is undrafted, and I mean he is just winning reps left and right. I watched him go up against multiple different offensive linemen, and he's just not losing. He's got that explosive first step, he's got power, and he's starting to look like one of those guys where even if he doesn't make the 53-man roster because of how deep this defensive line is, somebody's going to scoop him up the second he hits waivers. That's how good he's looked. And while we're on that defensive line, I have to bring up Derek Harmon, because the jump this guy has made from year 1 to year 2 is honestly kind of scary. He looked good as a rookie, don't get me wrong, but right now he's getting into backfields in what feels like under a second. He's beating guys with ease, and it's not just against the run either. He's winning pass rush reps too, which is the part that really jumps out at you. This guy looks like he's putting it all together right in front of our eyes.
Right there next to him, you've got Yahya Black, and man, this is one of those stories where I just didn't see it coming this fast. Last year, I had faith in the guy, but I wasn't blown away by his rookie season. This year, something is different. He looks like the strongest guy on that entire field, he's dominant against the run, and honestly, he looks like the exact kind of nose tackle this defense has been missing for a while now. When one of the other starters missed a couple days, he just stepped in and thrived, and that tells you everything you need to know about where his head's at right now. Now let me bring up a name that a lot of people didn't even know when he got drafted, and that's Gabe Rubio. I'll be honest, when this pick happened, I don't think anybody really had a strong opinion on him either way, but he's out there right now beating guys you wouldn't expect the 6th-round rookie to beat. He's not the flashiest athlete, he's not going to wow you with speed, but he's powerful, he's got legitimate run-stopping ability, and for a guy that a lot of people wrote off as a depth piece, he's making a real push to actually be on this roster when final cuts come around. And on the cornerback side, I want to talk about Jamel Dean for a second because his week started rough. I mean, early on, it almost looked like he wasn't fully locked in. But then something flipped, and he finished the week with an interception off Aaron Rodgers to open one of the practices. Since then, he's just looked like a completely different player. Physical, instinctual, winning matchups against some of the better receivers on this roster. When healthy, this is a guy who's proven himself for years, and it's good to see that version of him showing up. Right alongside him, I gotta mention Peyton Wilson, and I'll admit I'm being a little cautious here because I've seen this story before. Last year, at this exact point in camp, he looked explosive, he looked fast, and then things faded as the season went on. But right now, watching him fly around that field, the physicality is there, the aggression is there, and if he can keep that consistency going, he's got a real shot to be a difference maker in the middle of this defense. Okay, so now let me flip things over, because not everybody had a week to be proud of, and honestly, the first name that comes to mind is Jennings Dunker. This one's been rough to watch if I'm being honest with you. His footwork just hasn't looked right, he's way too high in his stance when he's blocking, and he's getting beat over and over again. There were reps where he just seemed to freeze up, like he didn't know what to do once contact was coming. This was a guy a lot of people thought could compete for a starting job coming into the year, and right now, that just does not look realistic at all. And unfortunately, I have to bring up Will Howard, because this was probably the steepest fall of anybody in this entire camp. Early in the week, he looked like the best quarterback of the group behind Aaron Rodgers, and then it just completely flipped. Interceptions, incompletions, balls sailing high, balls bouncing in the dirt, no zip on his throws at all. He looked rattled out there, and the timing of it lines up almost exactly with when the coaching staff started praising Mason Rudolph more publicly. That's a tough spot to be in, and right now it feels like he's got a real uphill climb to even get back into that conversation. Now over on the offensive line, I want to bring up Broderick Jones, because this was honestly all over the place. Early in the week, it was bad, like noticeably bad, to the point where it looked like he was struggling with the basics. But then during that final practice under the lights, he actually turned it around a little, won a couple solid reps, and looked more like himself. Still, when you zoom out over the whole week, the bad stretches outweigh that one strong showing, and that's enough to land him on the loser side this time around. And then there's Eli Heidenreich, and honestly, this one's just unfortunate more than anything. He picked up a hamstring injury early in the week and didn't practice again after that. Meanwhile, the guys behind him in that running back room have been getting all those extra reps and building momentum without him. When you're already fighting for a roster spot and then you lose valuable practice time like that, it puts you in a really tough spot heading into preseason.
So that's my full breakdown of who stood out and who struggled coming out of this stretch of camp. There's a lot still left to prove before final roster decisions get made, but these are the names I'm watching closest heading into preseason. Let me know down in the comments who you think surprised you the most, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.